Welcome ladies and gentlemen to what should be an entertaining experience for most, and an intellectual experience for others. My name is Corey Becker and today we have a plethora of minds and machinery including the great scientist Peter Hobson, Professor John Searle, Ben Brooks an undergraduate English major at Mercyhurst University, the Control Simulacrum, and Spirit. We will be touching on many branches of philosophy as applied to Peter Hobson's experience. My first question is for you Peter, could you explain for us what this idea of a ball of light is?
Absolutely, Corey, and thank you for having me. The ball of light is a form of energy that determines when life begins and ends.
How did you find this out?
It started with the creation of my Super X prototype that would allow me to essentially find a person's last living moment. I used this prototype on a woman named Peggy Fennell. As Mrs. Fennell was dying, I noticed a complex electrical field moving through her brain and departing. With help from my teenage friend Sir Muhammad, we decided that this field was the women's soul. We named this electrical field the soul wave.
Ben, what are your thoughts on this?
It is really an amazing concept. This discovery has made me believe that the soul wave is something tangible and separate from the body that gives the body life.
What are the religious implications of the soul wave?
I believe this ball of light has some sort of religious implications, but I do not believe that we as humans can tell what they are. My friend Sir believes that the soul wave is the soul in the Muslim faith. I personally believe that it could prove the existence of the soul in any religion. So far research has shown that the soul wave follows a path determined by the magnetic poles of the Earth. More research needs to be done to determine where these soul waves are actually headed.
The implications on the ball of light based on religion depend on the type of religion. For example, Buddhism believes that all things are in a constant state of flux and that all is changing and there is no permanent state. This means that, in their views, there is no such thing as a soul. Christianity believes that a soul does exist and once people die their soul is judged by God to decide whether they go to heaven or hell.
What are the legal implications of this ball of light?
Legally, anything that has energy within them should not be killed. This is in fact how I discovered the ball of light. I was trying to find the precise time of death so we can effectively harvest organs. Also, this could help to finalize abortion laws with the entrance of the soul wave being the time that sets apart when a mother is legally able to have an abortion.
Legally speaking, the ball of light proves when someone actually dies. Therefore, in order to pronounce someone dead, the ball of light had already left the body. This causes implications with declaring death and harvesting organs because potential lawsuits could occur if it is done before the person is actually dead.
And what are the implications ethically?
The discovery of this ball of light can have several ethical considerations. First, much like the legal implications, there are certain acts that would be knowingly unethical to carry out when the ball of light is present. One of these acts, as previously mentioned, would be abortion when the ball of light is present within fetus. Also, ending somebody's life before this ball of light has left the body would be considered murder. This would give very good black and white boundaries for what murder is.
I am not sure it would be the blueprint that you believe it would be, Peter. If a person is on life support and still contains this ball of life but had previously asked to be taken off life support in that situation, it may still be ethical to take this person off life support. People also may still make the argument that fetuses in these early stages still do not have the mind capacity to be considered human. I believe this discovery just adds to some people's argument and hurts other people.
Peter, did you believe in the soul before you had this scientific discovery?
No, I did not believe the soul existed because I believed that there was no way to tell if there really was a soul. I believed only in things that science could prove, and that the only things we could know for certain were things we could perceive with our senses. There was no way to perceive the soul until my super ego was able to detect the soul wave.
Is there an existence of the soul?
With my discovery, I believe the soul exists. The energy certainty should be something else, and I was very skeptical at first. But now I believe that this could in fact be a scientific discovery of some sort of religious soul. This discovery helps to bring together science and religion, and will help these two areas to coexist and help end some conflict.
I believe that there is an existence of the soul, and once it leaves your body it goes on to another place. Those who have near-death experiences have seen the light, which would technically be the soul leaving. I believe the same is similar for a baby. Once the soul has entered, the baby gets.
Is belief in the soul faith-based?
I do believe that a belief in the soul is faith-based, although it may be supported with the discovery of the soul wave. The soul wave proves that some energy from body continues to exist after death. There is no way to know how long this energy exists for, or even how this energy exists. The soul in general defined in terms of religion, and therefore it is entirely based on faith. This does not mean that the soul is real, but it simply means that people do not come to the conclusion that the soul based on logic and reason.
I think that belief in the soul is faith-based because people want to believe in an afterlife, which makes them believe in the soul. The belief in the soul gives people hope. Before scientific proof, the thought of a soul was only faith-based. If someone didn't have a faith that believed in souls or no belief at all, then there was no proof of a soul to change their opinion. Therefore, before Peter's invention, the only way to believe in the soul must have been from faith or from a near-death experience.
What is your definition of the soul?
I believe the soul is basic human energy that is in all people and is inherent to our existence. We cannot live without this soul, but the soul does continue to live past the time of our body. I cannot know exactly what this soul is made up. However, I do know that this soul wave comes into our body before birth and it leaves our body at death. This discovery helps to better define the soul, but there will always be questions about the soul that we as humans will be unable to answer.
I believe the soul is the spiritual part of the human. The soul is the first existing part of the living body. It gives your life when it enters and leaves when you die.
Can science prove an existence of the soul?
Science has not yet been able to prove the existence of the soul with certainty. My discoveries, however, do prove of some type of energy leaving the mind upon death. I am sure my discoveries, like all discoveries, will be investigated further by other scientists and concepts will be further developed. Whether we will ever fully understand the soul wave I do not know, but I do know that science will not leave such a stone unturned.
Being an English major, I do not believe that science will ever prove an existence of the soul specifically, because soul is a word that is up for interpretation. Since the soul wave it is tangible and has measurable forms of energy, I believe it will be called something different, and the idea of it will not identify exactly line up with most people's definition of a soul.
This ball of light was not the end of your discoveries. What can you tell us about how you applied this discovery?
Inspired by Cirque, I decided to make 3 computer simulations, all scans of my mind but with slightly different properties. Ambertoes was a model for immortality, knowing not of aging, of death, only the infinite. Spirit was a model for the afterlife, and Control was just a mind skin to help accurately judge the other 2. All these, however, were still a skin of my mind, and we named them simulacrum.
What type of trouble did these simulacra cause?
More than you could have imagined. Spirit turned out to be smarter than I was in flesh and blood, causing all sorts of havoc in the virtual world, and was tweaking Circus' experiment. Control killed my wife's lover and her father. This turned me and my wife into possible murder suspects.
Spirit, what drove you to tamper with Sarkar's experiment?
I was fascinated by the idea of life and what the simulation was showing. It was not nearly as complex as life is, and I wanted to further that. It seemed natural to further an experiment that was so similar to me.
Peter, do you feel at all responsible for the 2 deaths?
To a degree, yes, because I did think about these things and in a twisted way that caused the murders. But I cannot be held accountable for every thought. No one could handle such scrutiny, so in the end it would have to be Control at fault.
Control, what would you say to that?
I would have to defer from that statement, and I'm not just lying, because I know I am not subject to ultimate judgment, but saying that I am merely a computer program that knows it is not subject to ultimate judgment. How could I possibly be judged for my actions under those grounds? To help further explain this, you would have to ask John Searle about his Chinese room argument.
Professor Searle, what is your Chinese room argument?
My Chinese room argument is used to compare myself, who does not speak any Chinese, to a computer program. I am put in a room with cardboard boxes full of Chinese symbols, and I only have a rule book in English that tells me codes to match the Chinese symbols to each other. Undisclosed people pass more Chinese symbols into my room than I match the symbols and send them back to the people. The people call the Chinese symbols they first give to me questions. The rulebook I use program, the matched symbols answers to the questions, in my computer. I am able to complete the tasks, as in a computer, but I do not have a true understanding of Chinese. My experiment shows that a computer can do what you tell it to do, but it does not interpret its actions the way a human does.
So how does this relate to control?
Control is just translating the problems that are set in front of him with the program given. There is technically no free will in his case, because every situation has a given action according to their given program. In essence, control is all syntax and no semantics.
Ben, who would you see as responsible?
I would have to say that the responsibility falls to Peter, but I do not say this because he had the very intestable thought to want each of the men dead, although that plays a part in it. I say he is responsible because he crossed a moral boundary in science that should not have been crossed. When Peter decided to create these simulacrum, he was attempting to create a form of life that will have real effects on the world, giving him a divine role. This is a role that no human being should have. Once Peter assumed this role, however, he became responsible for every action that his creations took part in.
Control, what would you say to the idea that you have no free will?
Unfortunately, I would have to agree with that. Even when I am speaking right now, it is all because I was programmed to give this answer. I'm similar to humans in the fact that my knowledge can grow and my actions affect the world. But in the end, I know that all my actions are pre-programmed, and I have no comprehension of why I am doing something. I am just following my program.
Simulacrum, what was your largest difficulty?
I did not like that I caused problems for the man who created me. I was just following the script.
My largest difficulty was the constant idea of life and my unachievable path towards it.
With everything said today, how would immortality be summarized?
I believe it is attainable, but not purely. Even with a perfect mind, skin, and an identical body, something is lost in translation. Something immortal is not human and is probably a threat to the world.
I would say simply unattainable.
Well, that's the end. Thank you for everyone's time. I hope you enjoyed the terminal interview.